Hello, welcome to Middle Class Film Class Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler. Along with me is Peter and Joseph, your other hosts.
Hello.
Hello.
So, today we are reviewing The Witch.
What went we out into this wilderness to find? Leaving our country, kindred, our fathers' houses. For what? For the kingdom of God. Let us pray.
The Witch is a movie made in, I believe it was 2015 by director Robert Eggers. It is about a witch, and if you are familiar with the folk tales of the witches in the 1600s, that's essentially the plot it is. You know, it follows a family. There's a daughter who is accused of being a witch, and then the chaos ensues with that story plot line. Anyways, Peter, Joseph, what did you guys think of The Witch?
I love this movie. It's probably my favorite horror movie, if you can really call it a horror movie. I think it's a little bit more than just a horror movie. Probably the last 15, 20 years. I mean, probably one of my tops of all times.
When I saw it in theaters, when it came out, there wasn't much people in the theater, which is good for me. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about people in theaters, but
less the better.
Yeah, especially for a movie like this. And when I left the theater, I was just like, I was, as the Gen Zers would say, I was shook. I was
#shook.
Yes, I was just creeped out. I was left with just this eerie, uncomfortable feeling that lasted for well after the movie was over. And I couldn't think of another movie that left me feeling that way in recent years. And I really, really enjoyed it, and I've come back to it many times.
Maybe The Exorcist kind of made me feel the same ways I watched after watching The Exorcist. You're like, I don't know if I should have watched that.
And, you know, these movies, like, they consider them horror movies, you know? Like, I guess for marketing purposes, you kind of have to put a genre on them. But, like, The Witch and The Exorcist, I think that the horror of these plots those are the effect of the writing, you know? Like, I don't think these writers and directors are like going out of their way to make a horror movie. They're like, it's just more, I imagine...
It's like an deeply unnerving movie.
I imagine Robert Eggers was just like, I want to make a movie about a folktale, The Witch, like a witch.
Yeah, and it's really about the family, but they're plagued kind of by a witch. And the one thing I really enjoy about the writing of The Witch was that there's a lot of times there's movies where you're kind of not sure if there's really something creepy going on or scary. It's like, boom, they land in the meadows, they get kicked out of their colony or whatever you want to call it. They're kind of Puritans. Yeah, they have
pilgrimage.
The pilgrims, and they get booted out for whatever reasons unknown. And the father takes them out into the wilderness, and they find this clearing out in a meadow in the middle of the woods. And what I'd say, 6-7 minutes in before the first sighting of the witch happens, and you're like, oh yeah, there is a witch. It's not just some kind of creepy thing out in the woods, and maybe this is happening, maybe it's not. No, there's definitely a witch out there. It's scary as shit. It's very graphic. The first run-in with the witch is unnerving and graphic.
We're just gonna get into spoilers at this point too.
Yeah. Don't watch this before you listen.
Spoiler
to
alert:
this
there's
show.
at least one witch.
Spoiler alert: a baby is transfigured into goo.
Yeah,
manually.
I have. So in my notes for that scene, the baby goo scene, what I wrote down in my notes, I put witch uses baby juice for witchy powers. And so there was something to that. When I watched the commentary, the director mentioned that he read in his research that there was this unguent, that the stories about these unguents that the witches would make to help them fly.
What's an unguent?
That's
So like a potion or something.
It's like a primer.
Lotion.
It's like a primer for magic.
It was. They would make it out of unbaptized babies. That would give them their power.
Interesting. Yeah, that was a huge point of contention through the rest of the movie. After, I can't remember the baby's name. Probably not really important,
Samuel.
But
it was Samuel.
Yeah, Sam. And the mom is just hung up on the baby. Oh, the baby's in hell. The baby's in hell. Give it a rest.
Yeah.
She's probably causing the family more grief than the actual witch was throughout most of the movie. And the mom was hard to fathom, hard to kind of bear. She was difficult.
The baby kill scene too, like, so I'm not gonna say it wasn't graphic. It was a very graphic scene, but at the same time, though, they showed restraint with that subject matter of, killing an infant. They could have gone both ways. It could have been like, oh, you can imply like through shadows, or you can see it happen gruesomely. They definitely had that middle ground, which it was really.
There was a lot of shadow.
It was really well done.
Yeah,
it was a lot of sound effects too.
Natural light and very little natural light. You feel the creepiness of being in the woods, and I think that part of the beauty of this movie for being so dark is just in that one scene after the baby gets mushed up and put all over the old crone, and she's kind of laying there, and you're like, what's gonna happen? What's next? This is insane, this scene, and then she starts floating into the moon, and you're like, oh shit, this is like the classic witch trope of flying on a broomstick or floating into the night, naked into the night, an old hag, but done really, really tastefully and really, really artfully.
Yeah,
it was surprising. I didn't really expect that at all from this movie, and like you said, I've revisited it a number of times, and that every time you see a shot like that, it's really well done.
That's the one consistent thing about this movie, is that some of the shots in this movie are insanely beautiful to look at. Like, just and it just like, it's not even at like scenes of like interest or anything. It could just be like them just standing there like waiting to do something. Like, I recall like one scene where the father was just like standing next to his barn, and it was kind of just like a medium range shot, and it just like paused just for a second to appreciate like the environment of where they really were at. Like, they were truly out in a harsh environment, just scraping by, and you can tell by that shack that they live in too.
Yeah, and all the crow or the corn they had hung all over the place.
Yeah, the rotting corn.
Yeah.
Yeah, something about the rotting corn, actually. So this is like a tiny little trivia. So the corn shocks, the way that like how they were shaped, they're in that like sort of pyramid.
Kind of like a teepee.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Top of the husks kind of pulled together. Yeah,
there was no real like reason to it. It's just like a typical like New England thing that they did, I guess, in that time. And then also they had prop corn, like they had someone make that prop rotten corn that you see Will hold in that one scene where he throws it away. But they also bought corn like months prior and put it in storage and let it sit there.
Oh,
that's interesting.
And then they used it on the production. Yeah.
The actors
cool.
So they actually had rotten corn.
The actors are like, this smells kind of weird. Hey, is this rotten corn?
Yeah, we're really method on this set. Yeah,
corn was method. Method corn.
Can we talk about Caleb and his obsession with boobs for a second?
Yeah.
The family's dynamic is father, mother, oldest daughter, which is probably about 16 or so, maybe 17. Son is about 10-ish, 12 maybe at the latest, and then 2 young twins, which are, 4, 5, and then baby Samuel, which is a very short-lived scene, or short-lived time in the movie. But Caleb's the oldest son, and he's I'd say probably 2 times, maybe 3 times, you catch him catch a glimpse of his sister's cleavage.
Catching a look.
Ogling.
Catching a look.
Yeah, he likes boobs. And when you see the second witch, because there's multiple witches in the movie, when you see the second witch, the young witch, she knows, she's got his card, she's got his number.
Now,
I
comes
heard
out
what
boobs,
you like.
Yeah, boobs in full force.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of funny that you mentioned Caleb, ogling like women and shit like that, because it kind of really shows that, like, no matter what time in human history, a young boy's always gonna look at boobs.
It's the great equalizer. We've said it many times.
Yeah. So in my notes, I wrote when he's lost in the woods and he meets the young witch. I wrote, Caleb is seduced by witch, plays on his weakness for a woman with big tits.
Yeah, but Thomasin, his sister, she doesn't have big boobs. She just has any boobs in general.
The old hand that grabs Caleb's head.
Oh yeah.
Like, for the longest time, I thought that was like the best CG. Like, but it's actually just an old woman's hand.
Oh, it's an actual hand.
Yeah, it's an actual hand. That's just an old woman is hiding behind the actress.
If you watch it again, it kind of comes from a little bit of a weird angle. So you're kind of looking at it like, oh, it's coming from her hip a little bit. But that was that scene. You're kind of looking at them like the kids running through the woods, and you're like, these kids are idiots. I know they're trying to get at rabbits and stuff, but Caleb's like chasing that rabbit for like 10 miles into the woods. You know something bad's gonna happen, and they've already had a bunch of bad shit happen to them already. You kind of feel bad for the kid, but you're like, really, what do you expect is gonna happen? You found the witch of the woods. You knew it was out there.
Yeah, I think he knew. Like, I think he knew, like, once his brother was taken initially. Like, I think that was like a secret fear of his, because when Thomasin is talking about how, like, she's the witch of the woods or whatever, and he's like being like, oh no, stop saying that, because, like, I think that he already knew, like, there was some witchy person in the woods.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and he just wanted to, like, squash that fear. He's like, no, it's like, it was just a wolf or whatever, because he's trying to be like his dad, which is, that makes sense for that time too, because he was gonna take over the house once he became of age, because back in those times they didn't even, like, no one moved out or anything, like, they just inherited the land that they were on. And that scene where Caleb was with the confronting the younger witch, I thought that was a really scary scene, because I think that he was chasing the rabbit, like, at some point it was just a desire to catch the rabbit, not to, like, feed his family or anything. Like, I think, like, there was some witchy influence going on.
Like the rabbit was putting a hex on him already.
Yeah.
And giving him that influence.
And I honestly, I would go as far as to say that the portion in the woods that he went to doesn't exist on, like, a human perspective plane, like, he, like, went into a like a kind of, like, dimension, so to speak, where these witches were hiding. And I think that was...
So you think that the house was almost off grid to the reality that they were actually living in?
Yeah.
You go deep with it?
Yeah.
Matrix?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. And I just, because it kind of reminds me of another witch movie, The Blair Witch Project, like, where there's a scene in The Blair Witch Project where they walk in a straight line for 12 hours straight and end up in the same exact place where they started, kind of, like, assuming, like, they aren't on this plane of reality. So that's kind of, like, my headcanon. Like, that's what I thought. It was like Caleb, like, left this world into like this zone for the witches, and then this younger witch was just like, "Oh, I'm gonna steal your innocence, boy."
I thought in the Blair Witch that one person just had their left leg shorter than the other, so they were walking in a big circle. I thought that's more likely.
So regarding the twins,
God,
those hellhounds.
That's the best birth control you can ever have. Watch this movie.
Yeah.
Watch this movie and be like, your kids could end up like this. These fucking kids.
So do you think, because this is what I think or have thought, that they, like, since they were with Black Phillip, that they've been in cahoots with this whole thing since, like, maybe almost the beginning of the movie.
I don't think they thought that they were in cahoots or there was a choice for them. I think they were just young, naive kids that were like, "Oh, we're gonna sing a song about Black Phillip, our goat," when really it's the devil, you know. They're unwittingly letting them in, you know, spirits or influence or whatever you want into their household, and they've taken a stronghold, and the kids just happen to be the demon's anchor point or whatever.
Yeah, that actually makes sense too, because the demonic supernatural stuff affects innocent minds. So say a child's mind, I would say, I guess just before puberty maybe is when you're more susceptible to the devil's influence without knowing that you're being influenced by the devil. Maybe that's just kind of like the ongoing lore in like all movies dealing with the devil, is that the children are always the most susceptible because of their innocent minds.
The Exorcist again. I mean, why would it possesses the little girl? Who cares? Why would you possess a little girl if it was by your choice? It's probably the only thing that they could get their hands on, the demon. Let's see. Black Phillip, great character.
Some of those shots of that goat was just
it's so great.
So good.
Yeah, so I have actually something about that too.
Is it an award-winning goat? Because that's a good looking goat.
It was very troublesome to shoot with Charlie, which was the real goat's name.
Charlie.
And there's actually a lot of CG involved with the goat too. A lot of trainers and leashes had to be CG'd out.
That makes sense. I mean, there's some great scenes where it's like rearing back, getting ready to like ram, and you're like, oh shit, it's a very majestic looking goat. If it wasn't for its square pupils with its devil eyes, it would be a majestic creature. But it's creepy as shit, that goat.
Yeah. So the scene, I think it's just like they were just shooting. Like they just shot the goat by itself. Any scene with the goat where it's just by itself is just them shooting it so that they can have footage to cut to when they're fraying. Like, oh, it reared a lot. I guess it
was trying to assert its dominance on the film crew.
Tried to ram the cameras.
Yeah, and the kids probably, but
yeah, the kids.
Actually, the girl twin, I guess she had a good relationship with the goat.
Mercy. I do like the fact that the whole movie they dive feet first into the 1700s vernacular, and everybody speaks with like a Puritan, complete like England colonial slang. It's great.
Very period specific, and I love that.
Someone who's like well versed in 1700s or 18th century American colonialism may look at it and go, "Oh well, you know, this guy had that kind of accent, this guy had this." But to the layperson, I listen to it and I'm like, I could barely understand half the shit they're saying. It's pretty cool.
Very thick linguistics.
Just the vocabulary.
Yeah.
What they would use. You got to watch it with subtitles because there's a lot of stuff that I missed the first time.
Joseph was over here. We watched it, day before yesterday, or maybe was it yesterday?
It's Friday.
Friday night, yeah. We watched it Friday night, and Bree has broken it into me that we put subtitles on everything. Just subtitles stay on all the time in our house, and it's great because especially with movies like this, half the things you don't even realize that they're being such an asshole to their dad.
Oh yeah,
the things that they're saying. But you can
this is a burn.
That was a bad burn.
Your corn is trash.
Yeah, my favorite diss to the dad was, "Thou can't do nothing save cut wood." Because it's all he does when he's all pissed off. He's like, well, better go cut some wood. At least I can control that in my life.
Yeah, chop some wood, yeah.
But I mean,
Which is where he died.
was sluttiness actually used in that time though? That's what I would really want to know.
Oh, yeah. What does the mom say? It says,
It's proud slut.
Yeah,
his mom calls her, proud slut.
Yeah.
Probably because she's jealous.
Yeah, that was the thing about the mom and Thomason, is that they didn't really have a great relationship. She was always getting kind of blamed first.
She's the first. Yeah, she's the first one.
She did lose the baby, like.
Yeah, but she's. I mean, even in the scene when the two twins are just singing their songs about praising Black Phillip and pledging their allegiance to him, the mom goes, Thomason, I told you to mind the twins, and then she's like, oh yes, mother, and then the second later, she's like trying to rear the kids in. She's like, Mercy, Jonas, and then the mom's like, Thomason, leave them be. And you're like, Jesus Christ, you just told her to mind the twins. What the fuck?
But you could argue though that was the part of the witch's influence though on the parents. Is that they like had blinders on their perception, like, because the songs the children were singing, like, because I watched it with subtitles as well, and the lyrics to those songs are definitely satanic, and it's hard to miss even if you're like barely listening.
Yeah, if they were speaking that in like modern American language, and it's two kids dancing around singing about Black Phillip and praising him about all the powers he has and stuff, you'd be like, what the hell? These kids are insane. And get him inside and get away from that damn goat. I think
this goat is no good.
I think the whole time I felt sympathetic to Thomason, except when she's at the river and she's basically like beating the shit out of Mercy and telling her she's gonna kill her and eat her and stuff.
'Tis true, I be the witch.
Yes, and I'd break your neck and I'll peel your skin from your body, and you're like, holy shit.
Considering what you've already seen in the movie too, like when she starts saying that, you're like, ooh, that's.
She definitely loses a little sympathy there, and then you're like, okay, maybe she just snapped because that kid's so damn annoying, because it is.
Yeah.
Clickety clackety, clickety clackety.
I be not Mercy, I be the witch of the woods.
Yeah.
A lot of good quotables in this movie too.
Yeah, oddly enough. It's,
for a movie set in 1730s, it's very quotable.
Dost thou wish to live deliciously?
Yeah.
Do thou love the taste of butter? Would thou
I've seen that on a lot of
pretty dress?
I've seen that on shirts. Actually, it's weird.
Yeah, I actually had a
deliciously?
bar. I had a bar of soap called "Live Deliciously" soap that I got at a horror movie convention. Yeah, it smelled really good.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think that if you were to look at this movie, I think anybody would really think that this is made by a master filmmaker who's got a lot of movies under their belt. But the fact that it was written and directed as the first widespread theatrical release for Robert Eggers is so damn impressive. It felt, I should say the other way around, when I watched Hereditary, I felt the same way. It was Ari Aster's first writing and directing debut in a widespread theatrical release, and it was just freaking fantastic. It makes you excited for like what Robert Eggers and Ari Aster are going to do in the future. But we've seen Midsommar, and The Lighthouse is coming out pretty soon for Robert Eggers. Second movie. I'm pretty excited for that.
That one, I didn't even really hear any mainstream media buzz about The Witch either. Like,
not at all.
And it's kind of sad because this movie is on par with something like The Exorcist. It will hold up. I know it will, because
The Shining came out and it was nominated for a Razzie. I think the first year the Razzies were a thing, right? Everybody said like, "Well, what the hell is this? This isn't a horror movie."
Is that right?
It was like,
wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
The Razzie's been around that long?
I'm about to eat my own words right here in a second, but I'll look it up. But I think that in retrospect, like Tyler said, it's going to be considered like a classic. It's going to hold up for years to come. But I saw it in theaters too, Joe. Really small theater. It was like one of those like miniature, the smallest theater of a 16-plex,
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe 30 people in there. And when it was all said and done, I just sat there and was looking at the credits. I'm like, holy shit, that was intense. And I heard people kind of muttering to each other as they walked out of the theaters, like, that's it? That sucked, you know? And you're like, kind of disappointing, you know, when you have resonate so deeply with the movie and you hear people like, well, that wasn't even scary at all. There was no jump scares.
Gotta love that general audience.
I had the exact same experience when I saw it. I didn't have 30 people. I maybe had like 8 other people. And there's people sitting right behind us, and there was a lot of like giggling kind of stuff. And they were kind of like anime nerds anyway.
Those freaking weeaboos ruining Robbie Eggers.
Damn weebs. Or Robbie Egg.
And they had the same exact comment after the movie was over. It was like, that wasn't even scary, you know. And I was like, it doesn't leave you with this eerie, unsettling feeling that you're like, it's, I don't know. It's
like a forbidden movie almost. Bree says that whenever we kind of mention this to other people. She's like, I feel like after I watched that movie, I feel like I watched something I probably shouldn't have.
Can we talk about the great voice on William?
Yes.
The dad?
And his begging for forgiveness scene.
That
he eats the dust of the earth.
Yeah, eat the dust of the earth.
That monologue was so well written, and it just gave you bone chills when you hear him. That like saying like basically just proclaiming like his like fucked upness. He's like, oh my god, I was the worst.
I've forsaken my family. I'm the worst. I'm a failure. My corn is trash.
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah, my corn is trash.
Yeah, that's what I can't remember who says it to him, but someone says your corn is trash.
Thomason when she's he says
when she's roasting him.
Yeah, when she's giving him the 3-minute roast sesh.
Yeah,
he says to tell the truth because he keeps telling her, no, it's okay. You just repent from your sins. I know you're the witch, but just repent. And she's like, I'm not the witch. Yeah. And he tells her to tell the truth. And then she goes into a 3-minute roast of William, her father.
You cannot hunt.
Yeah.
You are a hypocrite.
Yeah, you stole mother's silver cup and then you blame me for it.
You know, it's so hard to like, when you're telling someone, oh, you should watch The Witch. Oh, what is it about? You can't really like capture the essence of this movie with just words. So like you can be talking about oh, it's really period specific and all this other shit, and they're just like, oh, cool, so it's like a PBS documentary or something.
Yeah, it's a documentary about like pre-Salem witch trials, which
it's actually just The Crucible starring Wendy Lewis and Winona Ryder.
Can I say though that, I mean, there's a lot of things I love about this movie, but top 5 all-time most impactful and emotional scenes for me was Caleb's possession. Mm-hmm. For like a 12-year-old actor was damn impressive. Oh, man. It's like every time I watch it, I get chills of the kid just like moaning with pleasure as he's dying. It's like, holy shit. That's on par with I've Abandoned My Child from, There Will Be Blood. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Both those scenes every time.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It really is. Just like the slow camera panning towards like to the face, like kind of like towards the chin, like gives it like that really like awkward like angle, so it feels uncomfortable. And of course, and actually what I really, really liked about that scene too was the kids like being little fucking assholes while this shit like this like horrible spiritual ass shit is happening.
Yeah, and they're speaking tongues and like flopping around on the ground like a fish as the rest of the family prays. It's if you hate the rest of the movie, it's worth it to sit through the entire movie just to see that scene. It's so damn good.
Yeah, so that scene was actually not shot listed. It was they worked with the actors just to get like the blocking down, and I guess Ralph Ineson, the father, the guy who plays the father, he directs Shakespeare with kids, so he was like a big helping hand for Caleb. I can't remember.
Okay.
Harvey is the actor's name. Yeah, Harvey Scrimshaw. He was a big help in Harvey getting that scene down.
Uh-huh.
So, and that last shot of him, that little last monologue before he, like when he kind of comes to for a second.
Yeah.
That like whole segment is just one take. It's like it's one. There's no
Oh
cuts.
yeah. It's a really solid one take of the kid staring past the camera into heaven and speaking directly to God, and it's like chilling, and then he just like dies, and you're like wow. Well, that's the end of that. Yeah. Well, hopefully the twins are next.
Oh, and they were.
Well, were they?
No.
But yeah, that's like
They're gone. They just disappear. They Houdini.
I think they like were taken to hell or something and became the devil's spawn or something.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe they turn into goblins.
Yeah, little hobgoblins.
Yeah. I mean, did we ever see the twins and the rabbit in the same place?
Oh shit. See, that's this movie, man. Like, it's just those small nuances about it that, like, give you like the creeps. And I think there's something really relatable about this movie being scared of like witches and stuff, because it kind of like really portrays witches as like the sole predators of humans, and they use magic and shit, you know, like that's terrifying.
So little side thought I was thinking about after you see the witch steal the baby, grind him up into goo, put him all over her naked body, and then you see the young witch take the kid and make out with him, and then off screen shove a crab apple into his mouth and possess him. And then you see the other witches at the very end dancing around the circle in the fire, all naked, fly off into the night. What do these witches do when they're not doing creepy shit? They just like hang out in the woods naked, or
they have a cauldron, stirring their cauldrons,
just constantly stirring.
Or I would imagine like hibernating or something.
They're basically bears.
Yeah, they
hot bears.
I mean, vampires sleep all day, and then they just do what at night.
That's true, but I don't think a witch would be able to like go into like a main population like a vampire could, because vampires, like, they're just like they have to suck humans' blood, you know, so they have to be
Witches
mingling the crowd. But I think witches, you know, they can just like pop in and out whenever and like steal your children.
Yeah, hide your kids, hide your wife.
Sounds kind of like a boring existence, except for the dancing around the naked fire. That part sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, they do that every night though.
I guess it would become old hat at some point.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we gotta go to the fire, the bonfire, and we gotta
chant that weird chant again that no one seems to know or be able to chant in unison.
Yeah, so I guess the dancing that jumping to the very end of the movie, the dancing that they're doing, or the kind of dancing that they're doing, is like a Japanese dance called like Buta or something, and I guess one of the world's like best Buta dance teachers lived in Canada.
And the best like Buta dancer.
And she like I think
cool to share at parties.
I think it's Buta. I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
I think it's Gruta. I have no idea.
Yeah.
She got like some of her friends who also do this, and they're like down to shoot this scene naked, and
they're all legit Buddha dancers?
Yeah, all of them, like they were like they had different shapes and sizes and ages of these dancers. And they're all there, and they're all down to do it.
Wow.
Canadians, man. So wait, it's a Japanese dance style, but they're Canadians that do it?
I think so.
Robert Eggers was just like, Google search, what's the creepiest dance in human existence?
No, he just went on Craigslist. He's like, anyone down to dance naked on film? PM me. Any movies that you guys would recommend for people who watched The Witch and really dug it?
Hereditary. I think if you're into like really well shot movies and really great monologue sequences and just great writing, I would recommend Hereditary 100%.
I think if you're into movies that are dramas first, and then
scary second,
have horrifying things in them. Bone-chilling events. Yeah, that shake you to your very core.
Plus, they're both of those movies at their essence are family dramas first, like you said.
Family dramas, because I mean, Hereditary is definitely a family drama, about a family being torn apart, and so was this movie. I think. I mean, they're being like
literally
one by one,
and figuratively torn apart.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about the dream sequence that happens with the Raven? And
I thought that was real.
Samuel.
That was real. Because
no, I know the Raven was real, but like the baby and Caleb being there was not real.
Yeah.
I think did Caleb's voice sound different to you? Was it actually a Caleb's voice, or was it like the devil's voice?
It was Caleb's voice.
Was it? Okay.
He's just being really serious.
Okay.
So I guess I don't have a lot of criticisms for this movie, but that dream sequence felt a little kind of forced in, because it didn't really do anything. It didn't really add anything to, except for like some really great shots that almost look like Renaissance paintings. But at the same time, though, you're just kind of like, well, what is this?
That was creepy.
It's creepy. Yeah, it's creepy. But you're already feeling creeped out. Like, you just had to experience the dad locking their kids in the pen. You know what I mean?
Plus, the mom wakes up with a bloody nipple, but she's still the same person she was before the dream. It didn't really affect her much. If she was kind to Thomason before the dream, and she has this possession sort of dream and comes out, and now she wants to choke her daughter on the ground to death, then you're like, oh, okay, something happened there. But you're right. I think it was it was just in there to be in there, almost.
Just to be creepy.
Yeah, it was almost like a transition scene, like a little mini half scene.
I honestly thought that when it cuts away from the Raven pecking at her nipples, I thought that was the end of the movie. I like it because just the way it just cuts immediately, and it kind of there's this little faint gasp that echoes away.
Oh yeah, I did notice that.
I was like,
cuts to black,
and then it's over.
It's like a second and a half of black screen, and then
then
it comes back to the dad waking up next to his wife with a bloody nipple.
Yeah.
That but man, that dream sequence though, the scene where it just kind of paused with her breastfeeding the Raven, that one shot was just that it stood out to me. That was one of the shots that stood out to me in the whole movie. So it's hard to, I mean, from a plot point of view, you can criticize the dream as not just being filler, but man, there's some camera magic going on in that scene.
The first time I saw that one shot with the Raven or the crow pecking, it was pretty creepy. The second and third time I saw it made me laugh a little bit, just because it was a little. Well, yeah, it was kind of goofy. But I felt the same way the second time you see the old witch when she's
when she cackles.
Yeah, when she's in the barn with the twins and Thomason, and they look over and she's like, ah! But it's legitimately scary still, but just a little. You're kind of like, that's funny.
Yeah.
It's it's a comedy now.
No, all the animals are turned inside out right after that, so she's definitely dangerous.
Entrails are. Yeah.
Well, I think we can all agree that we can recommend this movie to anyone who is a fan of movies. 5 out of 5 for sure.
Top tier. Yeah. I agree.
Perfect 5 out of 7 for me.
So I was thinking we could add the wheel segment to the end of episodes now. I know we didn't do that the last episode. We kind of didn't go as planned, but let's do it at the end of this one. So
I have, let me just give a little explanation. Just for our listeners, we have a spinning prize wheel you can hear thusly. And there's 8 spots on it. Last week, we, off air, we filled in our selections for movies. We each chose 2 movies that we liked, and then we had 2 wild cards that we kind of, as a group, decided to put on them on the wheel. And my choices were Stoker, the Korean-directed movie with Mia Wasikowska, and 3:10 to Yuma with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. Tyler's choices were The Witch, which we did this week, and the OG Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Joseph's were The Machinist and Following, not The Following, just Following. We also had a couple wild cards. Double Down by Neil Breen. If you don't know who Neil Breen is, give him a listen or give him a watch. He's like Tommy Wiseau, but 3 times as bad and 10 times more movies available.
Yeah.
Tommy Wiseau is self-aware of his being, but Neil Breen, I think he's just so
not there yet.
Special. Yeah, he's completely on another planet. And
He's
and then
from another planet. So.
yeah, probably. And then Escape from New York was a kind of a collective choice that Tyler felt really strongly about, so we put it on there. So you guys can do it any way you want. I'm choosing to keep my choices, Stoker and 3:10 to Yuma.
Yeah, I was
on
thinking
there.
we could still keep all the choices on there still, and then I'll fill my blank in with a movie that I think I'm gonna go with George of the Jungle, starring Brendan Fraser.
The Brandon?
Yeah.
Oh
Really?
boy. Okay. Never seen
Okay.
it. Never seen it. So we got two movies of questionable integrity on the wheel here. Double Down, directed and written by Neil Breen, and George of the Jungle. Going on the wheel. Any particular reason why George of the Jungle, Tyler?
I just think it would be a good time to seriously discuss that movie, just because it's a silly movie to analyze and review.
No, is it because of Brendan Fraser that you're doing
You
it?
want to get Brendan Fraser back on people's lips?
Yeah, that's a subtle side note for myself, as I'm trying to get Brendan Fraser back into the mainstream. He deserves it.
Tyler's Facebook profile picture is Brendan Fraser stone. Full disclosure.
Yeah, we didn't want to do Encino Man or.
Oh my god, it's a classic. Well, Brendan doesn't have a speaking part in that movie, so it's just
or the Mummy, the Mummy 2.
That one would be too
Mummy
obvious. We
Returns.
got to go deep into his filmography.
Okay.
No. What was the other one that he did where he's a mountie?
Monkey Bone.
Oh
Monkey
yeah,
Bone.
Monkey
That's a deep
Bone.
hole.
Yeah, I remember that.
Or the Mountie is wasn't that a
that was
cartoon?
Was that Rocky and Bullwinkle?
yes, it was Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Was he played a mountie in Rocky and
yeah,
Bullwinkle?
he did.
So
wait.
was that it? Because somehow he became the main character to opposite two crudely
a second.
CGI'd characters.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know if that is he in Rocky and Bullwinkle.
I think.
Isn't Robert De Niro in Rocky and Bullwinkle?
Brendan. Oh, he is too. His greatest role since Stardust. Robert De Niro.
You should see this movie. It has Robert De Niro in it.
Bedazzled.
Oh, but Dazzled is a classic.
Oh yeah.
All right, when are we gonna stop middle class film class and start the Brendan Fraser show?
Yeah.
Deep dives in the Brendan Fraser catalog.
Dudley Do Right.
That's
Dudley
it,
Do
that's
Right.
it.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's it.
All right,
Yeah.
so I want to spin the
You guys
wheel.
Ready for the spin?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Ready? Here we go. Following. Joseph's pick.
Following.
Tell us about Following, Joe.
Following is Christopher Nolan's debut feature film.
Exciting.
Shot in black and white, starring no one really famous anymore, I don't think. But it's basically about a guy who's a writer who just sort of follows people, and then he sort of winds up following kind of the wrong guy, or a guy who gets him into a little bit of trouble, and it's pretty good. A lot of people don't like it. I think it's actually like one of my favorite Nolan movies.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty simple, really low budget. And I mean, it's black and white because it was low budget.
So the plot synopsis for Following on IMDb, 1998. Let's see here. A young writer who follows strangers for material meets a thief who takes him under his wing, starring Jeremy Theobald, Alex Haw, Lucy Russell, and John Nolan, uncle of Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
All right. I'm looking forward to that. I've never seen any of Nolan's old stuff.
Chris, can you please give John a part in the movie? He's fallen on hard times.
John, yeah. Uncle Johnny. Actually, he was. John was in
John Nolan's in like a lot
Batman
of his
Begins,
movies.
Dunkirk, Person of Interest. He was Fredericks in Batman Begins.
And Dark Knight Rises.
Everybody knows Fredericks, of course.
He's the blind dude in Dunkirk at the end of the movie.
I hate to admit this, but I haven't seen Dunkirk still.
I haven't either.
That's a shame. Well,
Right.
put it on the list.
It's going on the wheel. Well, the following is off the wheel next week, so you can put Dunkirk on there if you so choose.
Okay.
All right. Well, it was great talking, great chatting about witches, killing babies. Catch you next week.
See you guys next time.
See you later.